That's the Mona system. I hope Leonardo da Vinci doesn't mind. So there's 9, just like the solar system has 9 planets, you know, the 9th, of course, being Pluto. And we're going to Pluto in 2006, hopefully. And when I met President Bush, I asked him to not cut funding to the mission to go to Pluto. So he told me, he said, Pluto? And then I whispered in his ear and said, you'll get a lot of Chucky votes. And then he pointed back to me and said, I'm going to send you to Pluto.
I've got an umbrella and you don't. I've got an umbrella and you don't. I've got an umbrella. I've got an umbrella. I've got an umbrella and you don't.
There's my website, ultrarenaissance.com, hyphenated. The first idea I ever had for anything digital, that was originally I wanted to do a screen, like a silk screen, you know, do it exactly in Andy Warhol's style, you know. It's the only thing he could never do in his lifetime is to do it, you know, his own grave. So that's his grave, that's his parents' grave behind him, that's his grave bigger. And he was a Leo, huh? August 6th, that's the same day of Hiroshima. I wanted to show you the original why Shang was called Shang. Because Shang, you know, the Dada artists did collaborative work during World War I. There's a lot of artists. The artists that didn't actually fight for their country and die, like a lot of artists fought and died. Some fought and didn't die, like Otto Dix, who was a German expressionist. And some didn't fight and went to Zurich and founded the Dada movement. We decided to do a second one. This is the original Shang that Sean did. So he never colored it in. And he had to go. It's like, well, he drew that and I gotta go. And we did some collaborative work, BWC and I did the original and we did it going back and forth. I let him do a version. You know, you just save it as, you know, the Magnificent Man with a hole in his head 2. And then we go back and forth. And that's after 8, that's the 8th time of going back and forth. And there's the frog 2. There's a little mushroom that's smiling. I did a whole series of art mocking the media. That's Red Ted. Ted Koppel, I've always thought, reminds me of Big Brother, just the way he's so pompous. And I thought of the idea of doing Ted Koppel as Big Brother right before ABC got bought out by Disney. So I decided to add Mickey Mouse ears to Ted. And there's the Thought Police Tribunal, and I, had all, like even kids are brainwashed at a young age, and then, there's Phil Donahue and MTV and Jerry Springer, Bozo, Mike Wallace, Barney, Geraldo. And there's Barbara Walters next to Geraldo. She asked the most impertinent questions to people. I think she was interviewing Martha Stewart, and I think she was saying, how do you feel that so many people hate you? And I felt like saying to her, well, I think more people hate you, Barbara, than hate Martha Stewart. How do you feel about that? Or how can you be that arrogant to ask her about how many people hate you and her when more people hate you? I mean, let's take a poll. It takes 1,000 people to have a valid scientific poll. So that'd be a fun poll to do. Like, who do you hate more? You could have, who do you hate? Do you hate Barbara Walters? Do you hate Barbara Stewart? If you hate both, who do you hate more? So this one's called Thought Police Triptych, and it was part of my solo show I had at Portland State back in July 1999, and had 10 works that I got printed up. So even though it's digital, you can print it up. I have the right, as an artist to, satire the media or anything I want. I have free speech. not only as an American, but as a human being.
Can you see the World Trade Center in the background? That's the World Trade Center. And we are in Soho. Those are the Twin Towers.
This one was weird because I did this before 9/11, you know, the Sears Tower 4. Because when I took the picture of the Sears Tower, there was a plane way above it. And so I thought it'd be cool to see the plane better because no one could notice it. It was so high. And I think the terrorists were, you know, the Sears Tower was a target, but they had grounded all the flights. And I think it was that day, that night, I drew that. The night did it, you know, 9/11, that night. And this one, I grabbed that from a page, you know, of people jumping off the World Trade Center. And did that lady. I added purple to it. You know, Andy Warhol did a disaster series, and he did pictures of, he did a picture of someone jumping, you know, suicide. Very well, Andy Warhol can do it, I can do it too. And I added with respect and love and rage, because I know some people automatically think that I was being disrespectful. I once said art is eternal action, and she's always alive there. August 7th, 2003. They're working on Ground Zero. A lot of flags around now. That's a cross I think that the workers made, you know. They cut the metal so that it, you know, looked like a cross. It's cool. And it was so depressing, you know, going to Ground Zero. Because I lived in New York City in 1993. And I was there when they bombed it the first time. I took the subway and just went up to the Upper West Side. And that's where I met Oscar. So yeah, I bought a CIA hat at Ground Zero. It made me feel less powerless. Let's say there's terrorists around, like admiring their work, you know, or whatever, you know, and they're there, and they'd see me in a CIA hat, and they'd be thinking, uh-oh, he's CIA. But they'd be thinking, no, he's not CIA, because a CIA guy wouldn't wear a hat saying CIA. But then maybe he's CIA because he's wearing the hat, and he's thinking that we're thinking he's not CIA, so he really is CIA. So I thought, yeah, okay, it's worth $5. I was a little mad then. I did a map of Afghanistan. It was a parking lot. CNN had a chat line for a while, and they closed it down after 9/11, I think, because there was just so many hateful posts. But when it was still up, I emailed the link to some lady from CNN, and her husband worked in like the Defense Department, and she forwarded it to him, and he printed that map. This image was actually like right in some office in the Defense Department after 9/11. I like space. Chilling on planet Venus. That was taken by NASA, I think. They use like radar because Venus has so many clouds. I think those lines and those ripples, that's like volcanic, you know. I think it's dried now. And that's Pluto Night Fever. That's with John Travolta. See, it kind of looks like a disco ball in that picture, because it's a very distant photo. That's Orange Moe. That's a rock called Moe on Mars. You know, NASA named it Moe. That's a close-up of a spot on Europa. I called it Europi. Europa Highway. That's kind of looks like a road, doesn't it? You know, it was originally black and white. You know, and it's like a throwaway image. It's on the NASA website page. Pictures of Europa, and most people won't see it. So I wanted to make them into art, and so people actually see them, you know, so, you know, it becomes part of our culture. They're so beautiful. And that's Io, one of the moons of Jupiter, and and Jupiter, the bands of Jupiter in the background. That's pretty cool. That's the Crab Nebula. It was funny the way I created that, because this lady, she was saying that everything's been done in art. Nothing can be made original anymore. And I told her that, you know, everything is unique in the universe. Like, there's only one Crab Nebula. This one is called Burger Slob. It's done on a Burger King coupon. I'm kind of playing with the food, like now all the food's in his mouth, you know, right? I colored it in. So that's Burger Slob.
Ready to go.
For here. I used to be able to make the perfect Whopper. You know, the perfect Whopper has 2 tomatoes, 4 pickles. You don't, not too heavy with the mayo, you know, and some ketchup. And it's done in exact order too. I ordered heavy tomatoes, so that should be 3. There should actually be 3 tomatoes in my Whopper. We can test right now and see if they made this Whopper correctly. There should be 3 tomatoes in it. So I ordered it heavy tomato. Wow. Look at that. Right here.
That's a chicken Whopper.
Yeah.
Hello.
Have it your way. That's Burger King. Have it your way at Burger King. I can do like a falsetto too, like a, okay, there should be 3 tomatoes. See? Okay, there you go, see? Told you. I was going to say about Demosthenes, you know, who wrote the greatest speech ever, the world's best orator, greatest orator in the world. He practiced speaking with pebbles in his mouth, like rocks in his mouth, in order to you know, speak loudly, I guess, in order to, so, you know, he had to address, you know, big crowds of Athenians, you know, in the Colosseum or whatever they had in Athens, you know. So, you know, it's good if you want to be a speaker to like practice talking as you're like eating a Whopper. You know what I mean? But I love you. I remember when I painted that painting in Ann Arbor, like an hour before I painted it, I was having a discussion about what is art with a couple people, and they were just, you know, talking about what is art, well, what is art, and then it was funny because right after I finished that, it was still wet and I had it on a newspaper, and I walked out of my room with it sitting on a newspaper, and I said, "This is art. You're asking, what is art? There is some art." And they were all impressed, you know, they knew they were looking at art, and it was wet, freshly painted, wet. Walking in the sun with courage and love. I did this one after I had gotten rejected by the woman that I loved. There was a heart-shaped thing in my room in Lansing. It was like just from a bad paint job, you know, there was a splotch in the wall, and it looked like a heart bursting. This is called heart bursting, and it's based on the shape in my room in Lansing. It's probably still there. What to say? It's abstract, and it was like, it had to do with my emotional life. It was like what to say to the, you know, woman I was in love with. What to say? Because things weren't working out. So what do you say? And the answer is, by the way, nothing. Because I heard someone once say, you can't talk yourself out of dumped. There's a girl that I was in love with, lady I was in love with. I wrote a song about her once. Cincinnati woman. She's from, I met her in Cincinnati. Goes, oh yeah, Cincinnati woman. Oh yeah, Cincinnati woman. Cincinnati woman got a hold on me. Cincinnati woman, got a hold on me. This is Antinous. If you ever read the Odyssey, Odysseus, that's a arrow from Odysseus, because this dude was putting the moves. he was putting the moves on Penelope. Don't do that, man. And there's Penelope. Yeah, you don't mess with another man's woman, you know, especially if he's like Odysseus. This one's kind of small. It's on pink Tefl message pad paper. But this one says a lot, so I wanted to show it to you. It says, the art world would like me to become a whore. Because, you know, it's on pink Tefl message pad paper for one, so it's not archival. The art world demands that all artworks be made on archival paper, because the purpose of art is for it to go into a gallery so it will sell to rich people. This is a lime green Tefl message pad paper. You know, I don't want people to think that I'm, you know, solely driven by pink Tefl message pad paper. This one is called New World Order Tyrannosaurus. It was done on 3/8/1995 AD. Just did this one in Biloxi, Mississippi. It's called Mrs. Baird. And if you'll notice, it's well, it's a Sharpie. I drew her with a Sharpie on it and a blank index card. And colored her in with crayons. She kind of looks like Mrs. Jetson, Jane Jetson. Like the hair, you know, maybe not the face, the expression, but the hair. And I tried to find the color most like that. And George has the same color as Jane. I think I'm going to do blank index cards now, you know. A lot of my stuff earlier, you know, like the lined blue leaf paper, I needed to do that to kind of that rebelliousness, you know. Like this painting, you know, Tom Melinda. You know, see, it's red and yellow with because we're on the blues, you know, like the St. Louis Blues. But we played, you know, out of Sterling Heights, Michigan. Some people have a problem with the lines, you know, and I don't know. I'm tired, you know. It's not like I'm tired of fighting, but it's like, you know, I'm just gonna do it on blank index cards. I've emailed bands and stuff. Hey, why don't you use one of my works of art on your album cover, you know? But some bands think that, you know, showing like dead roadkill or something on the side of the road is like better than showing a work of art, you know. I mean, like, look at Mrs. Baird here. You know, you could even crop it so it's a perfect square, and it'd be like a good album cover. Okay. Now it's framed. Mrs. Baird. She's alive. You know, in art, she exists eternally. Even after the sun burns out, you know, and Earth is consumed by the solar flames. You know, the memory of Mrs. Baird, and indeed of the entire Earth, will still exist somehow. I bought some gold watercolor, and I had a series where I did, you know, some religious paintings, just to explore that, you know, whole, just for me to get involved in that genre. I wanted to do some. I remember I had a slideshow one time, and somebody right ahead of me told me I was ODing on Catholicism. Well, here's another one from the religious theme period. This is called Cross, 1991. That's like my abstract kind of religious painting. That's the Archangel Michael. So he's named after me, or I'm named after him. This one's just called simply Jesus. This is probably the best Satan ever did on loose leaf paper. It's just called Satan. I think he makes him look more diabolical when you have like the two different color eyes. Dead Jesus. Well, this one's called Satan Looking Up Mary's Dress. So you can notice that Satan is underneath Mary, looking up her dress. And this one's called Satan Trying to Stop the Ascent of Jesus. You see, Jesus isn't very happy. The melting flag. That's on my website. I painted that on an easel, and I made the paint drip. I kept adding paint to the top because it was on an easel, so it would drip down, you know. And I kept doing that till I did add the purple though, because it was too hard to get the blue and the red to blend together to drip down, so I kind of facilitated that. Under a purple sky and a jaundiced, bloody sun. That's done in Lansing when I was going to law school. See, when I was in law school, I just read the cases once. Some people were reading them like, you know, multiple times, and they'd make outlines. I never outlined my stuff. And then some people would outline their outlines. And some people would, and this, I'm not making this up, they would outline the outline of the outline, you know. And they'd get better grades, and they went on to work at law firms, and, you know, I went on to work at Arby's. I had a couple cases. This one's called Fresh and Happy Snowman. I did this in law school, back when I should have been reading, you know, Marbury versus Madison for like the 87th time. A dopey lawyer, champion of the people. And there's like a colon, that's why I had to pause. I met President Bush, right? I ran for state rep, and in Oregon, and I you know, I was pro. I mentioned that I was pro-choice Republican, you know, and pro hemp, and I mentioned how, you know, I told people how my dad harvested hemp during World War II. You know, he was in high school in Henderson, Kentucky, and someone from the Army came and asked all the boys in his classroom, high school classroom, you guys want to help your country? Hello, I'm Mike Wrathell. I'm running for state representative in District 48. I won the Republican primary, but I'm pretty open-minded. I'm pro-choice, although I believe in waiting periods, 48 hours. I'm pro-union. Well, originally I'm from Detroit. I was high honors in my high school, Sterling Heights High School in the suburbs of Detroit. Went to University of Michigan. I started out as a political science major, ended up getting into art and literature. I am an artist and a writer. And then I went to law school in 1988 in Cooley Law School in Lansing, Michigan. I interned for a state representative while I was up there. As an artist, a writer, as someone who's trying to find answers, I think I'm the most, you know, the candidate who has the most desire to really find solutions to problems. And I hope you vote for me. And remember, even if you're a Democrat, I do have the endorsement of Mick Wagner, who finished second place in the Democratic primary. Thank you. Here, I got a bunch of devils here, you know, for, you know, if you devil worshippers out there, you can look at them. But I'm not a devil worshipper myself. I don't like, you know, evil. I think good is better than evil. Personally, I prefer good. I don't know. You know, orange-eyed devil. That's one of my best devils, I think. Polyphemian devil, because Polyphemus was the name of the Cyclops with one eye in the Odyssey. I think when you make them smile, they look more evil, you know. That's green devil. This is called the toothy devil, and this is a sad angel. I like drawing angels too.
I'm gonna get real close up on this, Mike.
That's called George Washington-eyed devil, and if you notice George Washington's eyes in the dollar bill, his pupils are way up, like that.
What response have you gotten to this?
Well, see, I showed this to this one gallery dude on West Broadway in Soho. And West Broadway is like the real hoity-toity street of Soho. So I really didn't expect any great reaction. And he said it was clever. He said that's very clever.
That's what they call damning by faint praise.
And I was telling Roy.
I think it's beautiful. Look at that. No one would do something like that.
I know.
No one would do that.
No one.
Except Mike.
Here's an alien. See, I don't dust devils. Little Martian Man. Seymour, demagogue of planet Kronos. This is sad yellow alien. Because, you know, all aliens aren't green. I mean, the aliens from Pluto are blue. I've got some Neptunians that I drew, too. Some people from Neptune that are blue. So if you're from Neptune or Pluto, I draw you as blue. There's a guy, untitled. He almost looks like he's a Star Trek guy, you know, like, Captain, the Van Darkians are firing upon us. Alien. Who's the alien, though? You know, can you tell? When I was a kid, I used to pretend I was the king of Pluto, you know. But I admit to you guys, this is the first time I've ever said it, alright, to anybody. I'm not really from Pluto. This is silver watercolor. It's an abstract, untitled. I think it did have a title, but I never wrote it on the back of it, you know. I never wrote the title. You know? That was dumb. Because it would, I know there's a meaning, there's some sort of meaning to this painting, but everyone comes up with their own meaning anyway, you know? I mean, some people don't want an artist to explain it, or they don't want to read the titles, and that's fine. This is called Waiting for the Cigarette to Burn, for all you smokers out there. I quit smoking, but I was smoking at the time that I painted this. Waiting for the cigarette to burn. And Philip Morris, if you guys want to buy this, for you I got a special price of only $20 million. Here's some dolphins. I did this in, I think I did these in San Diego. I did a few of them in San Diego anyway. That's Earl, the yellow dolphin. And this is Pearl. No, this is, oh, we'll show Pearl next. Yeah, there's Pearl, Earl's wife. And then here's their kid, Durl. Here's a Mona Aardvark. I was messing around with a medium, you know. Mona Aardvark. I tried to give her an enigmatic smile, you know. I read a poem once that goes, here, well, this is a African Picasso. But the poem goes, the man who, that's the title, you know. The man who, he wasn't announced, the clouds in the fields bounced. He regained his freedom. He toyed with the those who didn't. The price of vision, and then in parentheses, and life. Because there is a price as an artist. You pay a toll. And I guess that blackness, that represents like the pain and the suffering and the all that comes, all the baggage that comes with being an artist. Now this is the Gulf of Mexico here. It's pretty. I wanted to color this drawing I did here in the daylight. My friend Glenn told me make sure I get the sharpener, crayon sharpener. You know, you should never buy acrylic crayons without the sharpener. You know, that's one of the essential tools of the artiste. And this is Leonardo here, you know. I'm reading about him. I've read about him before. He's a cool guy. He's a Renaissance guy. He, inspired, I mean, the whole, I started an art movement called the Ultra Renaissance, and I wrote an Ultra Renaissance manifesto, and it's on my website, ultrarenaissance.com, which is hyphenated. It's like post-impressionism. And I wrote it with a pseudonym of Rick Da Vinci. I could mix my own colors, but, Monet didn't mix his own colors. At least not after, he had cataracts as an old man. Other people would mix his colors and just tell him, okay, this one's red. And he couldn't even, he was like blind for a while and he still painted. Let's see. See, I just want to kind of, she's streaking her hair, see? Well, we'll get some purple in the background. We need some purple. I want to get some blue, too. How come Crayola doesn't have beige? I could just leave her face white, but got these crayons. Benny Smith, huh? Well, you guys can write Benny Smith for me, and maybe I'll write him. You're getting a peach face, girl. I could call her Peach Face. I'm just gonna call her North American Girl. Well, there you go. Which would you rather have on your t-shirt? The Mona Lisa? Or Yellow Monster? Or North American Girl? I'm just kidding though, of course. I mean, I like the quote by Christopher Marlowe. He said, comparisons are odious. And I think that's true. I mean, there's only one Leonardo, and there's only one me, and there's only one, dead fish on the shoreline. Well, that's about it. That's all she wrote.
A 1 and a 2 and a